It's very strong tornadoes.
Tonight, deadly weather, a powerful storm system, including dozens of tornadoes, tears across America's midsection. Hundreds of homes damaged, tens of thousands left without power. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, cracking down on credit card companies. What the government's doing to try to keep them from taking advantage of you. Why are near empty passenger planes flying to destinations all across the country at taxpayer expense? We'll follow the money. And Yippee-I-O Wrangler Steve Hartman helps you get in touch with your inner cowboy in tonight's Assignment America.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. Well, it could be a rough and dangerous night over a big stretch of the nation's midsection as a powerful weather system works its way east. It's been churning out storm after storm since last night, including tornadoes in the south and even a blizzard in the north. The tornadoes, by the way, are blamed for at least 7 deaths. More than 50,000 people lost power and hundreds of homes have been damaged in a path of destruction over several states. For the very latest now, we turn to Hari Srinivasan.
It's still on the ground.
Monster tornadoes began dropping out of the sky late yesterday in the Midwest, and the terrifying hours of trying to stay alive began.
My dad woke us up at like around 2-ish. The power's out and everything, and he kept pounding on my door like, "Kids, get in the basement now!"
24 tornadoes in 24 hours, and it was in Arkansas that the system turned deadly. Among those killed, a 15-year-old girl who died as she slept when a tree struck her home in Siloam Springs. And about 50 miles north of Little Rock, a family of 3 was killed when their home was flattened. This enormous weather maker was packing hurricane-force winds of up to 100 miles an hour, blamed for destroying a dozen homes in the Kansas City area and damaging at least 300 others.
Mother Nature, like I told other people, she's going to do what she wants to do, and we just have to pick up the pieces.
As tornadoes twisted across the Midwestern landscape, South Dakotans got weather whiplash, beginning with as many as 8 tornadoes.
The cattle were just running, and I thought, Kai, what's wrong with you guys, I dove down right along the fence where the cattle had walked the ground away a little bit and covered my head. And I said, I guess I'm ready, Lord.
And as if that wasn't enough, then slapped by a blizzard that dumped 24 inches of snow on the Rapid City area. It was the latest atmospheric assault in what weather watchers say has already been a very active early storm season. Through April, there have been 708 tornadoes, compared to 517 during the same period last year. That's nearly 200 more twisters already this year.
We're entering the beginning of the severe weather season. May and June are usually our most active months in terms of severe thunderstorms, large hail, and damaging tornadoes.
Here in Canton, Texas, there was actually a 77-year-old man sleeping inside this van about a half hour until a tornado touched down. The high winds brought a tree down on top of the van. Katie, he knows what a lucky guy he is.
All right, Hari Srinivasan in Canton, Texas. Hari, thank you, and be careful out there. To the economy now, where the news today is not quite as bad as it has been. The unemployment rate is actually down a bit. It's now an even 5%. And while the economy lost 20,000 more jobs in April, that's only about a quarter of what was lost in March. Anthony Mason now on the hunt for work in a slow economy.
Do you need any safety equipment?
Before dawn at the Labor Ready Employment Office in Southgate, California.
Do you want to go to Macy's?
These early risers are hoping for a shot at temp work.
Sometimes you have to get what you can get.
It's hard to find a job. Most companies are closing down.
As the economy lost jobs for the 4th straight month, construction, manufacturing, and retail took the hardest hit. But gains in education, healthcare, and government hiring helped offset most of those losses.
Well, I think the economy is a little bit in no man's land.
Economist Bruce Kasman says it's not as bad as some recessions when we've lost 100,000 jobs a month.
But at the same time, jobs are being cut, incomes are being compressed. This is definitely a painful environment.
Discouraging news for college seniors about to graduate.
We can go into the into job search links. Let's try that.
Iona College senior Milena Spiata wants to use the 3 foreign languages she speaks.
So you haven't found a job yet?
No, not yet.
59% of employers plan to hire recent college grads this year, but that's down from 79% last year.
You think there are going to be fewer opportunities for you?
I don't think that there'll be fewer opportunities, but I think that it might just take longer to find them.
Economists say this week job market could last another 3 to 6 months. The good news, if we are in a recession, today's numbers suggest it may not be as deep as some feared. Katie?
Finally, a little bit of good news from you, Anthony.
To give you a little Dr. Doom coming through.
Thank you so much. Along with the slow economy, we have rapidly rising gas prices. Now drivers may be ending their love affair with big cars and trucks. Small, high-mileage cars are flying out of showrooms, like the subcompact Honda Fit. Sales are up 54% over last year. It's about the same for the hybrid Toyota Prius. Ford Focus sales are up 32%. It's the opposite story for gas guzzlers, though. Chevy Silverado sales have dropped more than 30%, and Ford's F-Series pickups, they're down 27%. Cars may be getting smaller, but the debt we're carrying is getting bigger. These numbers are shocking. Americans charge more than $2 trillion every year on credit cards, and that's nearly $4 million a minute. Making matters worse, the creditors doing all they can to send interest rates soaring. But rules proposed today could put a stop to that. Here's Nancy Cordes.
Americans are drowning in $850 billion of credit card debt. The Fed says it's not entirely their fault. Today, it voted for the toughest crackdown ever on credit card practices it calls deceptive and unfair.
For markets to work well, people have to understand what it is they're buying and paying for. And if they do, then they can make better choices and the market will work better.
The new rules would prohibit common ploys, such as mailing the bills less than 3 weeks before the due date, not giving cardholders enough time to pay, or jacking up the interest rates, even for people who pay on time, or charging interest on the previous month's balance when it's already been paid off.
Other than the credit card industry, there's not a business in America that can get away with changing the price of a good or service after you've bought it. But that's what they've been doing.
They did it to Dennis English, a trucker in Augusta, Georgia, who says he never missed a payment.
It started out at 9.9% interest rate, and last month when I went to pay my bill, I happened to notice it had gone up to 32.99. I mean, I told them, I said, you're forcing people to go bankrupt.
But the credit card companies argue the new rules will force them to raise rates for everyone.
Interest rates on credit cards have gone down in the last 10 and 20 years. So it's a good deal. Credit cards are a great deal, and most people manage them well.
The Fed says the rules should be finalized by the end of the year, but consumer advocates warn the credit card companies are going to bring out their big lobby guns, Katie, to try to shoot as many holes in this proposal as possible.
I'm sure they will. Nancy Cordes in Washington. Nancy, thanks. Now turning to presidential politics, and the high price of gas is still a big issue, with the candidates disagreeing sharply over what to do about it. Here's tonight's CBS News Campaign 08 Notebook. In North Carolina today, Hillary Clinton repeated her call to suspend the federal gasoline tax for the summer, even though there's little support for that in Congress or among economists. Her plan would save drivers more than 18 cents a gallon, with the lost revenue made up by taxing oil company profits.
We ought to say, wait a minute, we'd rather have the oil companies pay the gas tax than the drivers of North Carolina.
Thank you for that.
Republican John McCain also wants the gas tax suspended. Barack Obama is the only one of the three candidates opposed. In Indiana today, he said drivers would save only about 30 cents a day, $28 for the entire summer.
It's a shell game, literally.
Bob Schieffer is our chief Washington correspondent and anchor of Face the Nation. Bob, I know you're just back from North Carolina. Can you give us a sense of what's going on there?
Well, I'll tell you, Senator Clinton is closing the gap on Barack Obama, Katie. Every poll now reflects it. It's down to single digits. Everybody you talk to reflects that. She is also now running even in Indiana. I think if she comes close in North Carolina and wins in Indiana, it is really going to help her argument to these superdelegates that she is the strongest candidate in the fall.
Meanwhile, Bob, the longer this goes on, and we've talked about this before, but is it really bad for the Democratic Party in general, or are people accepted this is part of the process?
Well, I mean, in my mind, it's kind of like a demolition derby going on here. There's no question, and you can check these polls, the longer this goes on, the less popular both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama become. The question now is, though, how do they bring this to some sort of conclusion? It cannot be helping them.
But John McCain, meanwhile, isn't getting a ton of attention right now, and he probably doesn't mind that a bit.
No, he's glad to have them on center stage, because look what's going on here, Katie. The Wall Street Journal NBC poll yesterday said that only 29% of Americans now have a positive view of the Republican Party. You've got an unpopular war. You've got most people thinking the country is going in the wrong direction. And yet, John McCain is running about even with both of these Democrats.
All right, Bob Schieffer in Washington tonight. Bob, thank you. We'll see you Sunday on Face the Nation. There is much more CBS News ahead, including some news about CBS, a look at how it all began 60 years ago. But up next, why are you, the American taxpayer, footing the bill for planes that carry no one to the middle of nowhere? We'll follow the money. Rising airfares may force you to cut back on vacation travel this summer. In fact, a new word has been coined for not leaving home: staycations. But while you're at home, you'll be paying for near-empty planes to fly all over the country thanks to a government program. Cheryl Atkinson follows the money.
It's called Essential Air Service, and it was set up during the Carter presidency to prop up rural airports until they could make it on their own. It was supposed to be temporary, but 30 years later, it's bigger and costlier than ever. $127 million this year alone.
The Essential Air Service is neither essential nor is it much of a service.
Government watchdog Evan Sparks says airlines and airports are hooked on the public dole. The government's Essential Air Service pays airlines millions to serve more than 100 small towns. Many can barely scrounge a few passengers even after years of trying. $1 million a year keeps planes flying into Lewistown, Montana, often empty. The subsidy works out to $843 a passenger. How about the $2 million a year to fly a handful of people from Macon, Georgia to Atlanta, just 83 miles away? We booked tickets from Washington Dulles Airport to the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. I didn't have to fight a crowd at the gate. There was no line to board. And with just 4 other passengers, plenty of empty seats. Yet the government pays Colgan Airline $1.3 million a year to fly this route 3 times a day. Most of these planes fly more empty than full, but the government still pays for it, even when they're completely empty. After we landed, our plane went on to Beckley, West Virginia with no passengers at all. Essential Air Service does have its supporters. The lucky few passengers enjoy low fares and lots of elbow room. But its biggest fans are in Congress. Representative John Peterson says the program, run by the Department of Transportation, is crucial to keeping rural America connected. The Department of Transportation paid for 2.4 million empty seats in 2006. Is that a problem?
Well, sure, it's a problem, but proper administration, hooking them up to an airport where there's some place to go, somebody's connect to, those have been the problems. Those are administrative problems.
As it happens, it's thanks to Essential Air Service that Peterson can fly right into his tiny hometown airport in Oil City, Pennsylvania, population 11,000. And he's not the only member of Congress with subsidized flights going to their small towns. Which may be partly why, when the Department of Transportation recently tried to cut back Essential Air Service, Congress just made it bigger. All those millions paying for flights, often running on empty. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, the Shenandoah Valley, Virginia.
Up next, we mark a special anniversary by taking you back to the beginning.
Now a message from our sponsor.
We want to take you back now to a time when only 1 in 10 Americans had even seen a TV set. 60 years ago tomorrow at 7:30 in the evening, the first daily network television newscast premiered right here on CBS.
Good evening, everybody. Here's the news picture tonight.
Truth be told, in the early days of what was then called the CBS TV News, there weren't many pictures.
We have some new pictures just received of Bonnie, Prince Charlie.
Barely enough to fill the 15-minute broadcast, and the film was often several days old.
Well, now we have some very, very dramatic pictures on recent Atlantic-packed riots up in Iceland.
The newscaster, the term anchor had not been coined yet, was 30-year-old Douglas Edwards, who had recently made the transition from radio to this new medium.
The opening of Congress today was caught by the CBS News cameras.
There was no teleprompter yet. Doug consulted notes in his hands or on cue cards and ad-libbed.
Winding up now, a little late news released just a few minutes ago.
The program's creative genius, the legendary Don Hewitt, once tried to get Edwards to learn Braille so he could read while looking directly into the camera. But Doug said, no thanks.
Today, Secretary of Agriculture Brannon proposed a new law.
Graphics were primitive.
There's a likelihood it will be repealed despite pressure from the dairy states.
The identity of the hand is lost to history. On that first night, the broadcast aired on just 3 stations in New York, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. Soon, Boston and Washington joined the fledgling CBS network. And when the broadcast finally reached Los Angeles, Doug trumpeted the news.
Good evening, everybody, coast to coast.
And he pioneered anchoring from the field.
The National Guard, the Civil Defense are on duty here in Norwalk.
While back in the studio, he interviewed everyone from a former First Lady to a lady with a less lofty title, as Doug remembered some years later.
Here is one of our lighter interviews, again, a Miss Cranberry or Miss Somebody. I don't know.
Edwards and Hewitt would invent and reinvent the network television newscasts as they went along. But that's how it began, May 3rd, 1948.
Douglas Edwards saying goodnight for CBS News.
At the London Zoo, an endangered baby monkey is surviving and thriving with just the bare necessities. But in this case, it's a teddy bear. The monkey, Conchita, was abandoned by her mother 3 weeks ago. To help her cope, zookeepers put the stuffed animal in her cage, and now the two are inseparable. That is pretty cute. Finally, tonight, many of us used to play cowboys and Indians when we were kids, and some of us apparently never grew out of it. Here's Steve Hartman with tonight's Assignment America.
Okay. By weekday, they are Jerry Hinkle, mild-mannered photo editor.
Yeah, it's not quite hot enough yet.
And his wife, Grace Galick.
Careful there, don't burn yourself.
Overprotective neurologist.
Okay.
But come Saturday, they are totally different people. And give me your names again.
Innocent Bystander. Sacramento Johnson.
Okay. Innocent and Sacramento are just 2 of more than 80,000 wannabe cowboys worldwide who shed their identities every weekend.
Actually, I don't know what people's real names are.
Leave their careers behind. You're a pilot?
Yep.
A 911 emergency police and fire dispatcher.
And become partners.
I'm a dentist.
A dentist?
A dentist. I can go out and pick up my guns and forget about teeth.
Their group is called the Single Action Shooting Society. They get together at places like this ranch outside Albuquerque, New Mexico, and compete.
It's just one of those sports where you want to put your arm around somebody, slap them on the back, say yeehaw, have some fun.
Stand by.
The object is basically to take down the metal bad guys and rustle up the imaginary grub, and to do it as quickly as possible.
There's part of me that wants to kind of mock it, but there's a part of me that's jealous.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
It seems really strange when you first see it, but I tell you what, it's very addictive.
I practice all the time.
Sharon Fortner, a.k.a. Shanny Sue, is so into this, she says she'd rather shoot than eat. In fact, sometimes she does both at once.
If I'm stirring up the spaghetti, I might decide to pull my gun and aim at one of the pictures on the wall just to see how fast I can put it back in my holster. I can't take time out to go to the range all the time, so I
just shoot things around the house.
Shoot things around the house, exactly.
Without bullets, thank goodness. It's that kind of passion.
Oh my God almighty.
Combined with this kind of outfit that have made single action shooting the silliest looking and fastest growing shooting sport in the world.
It may not be like the Old West, but it's like we think it was. Okay. And that's good enough.
If this sounds like the fantasy for you, there are club chapters in every state. To get started, all you need, Klondike Katie, is a good imagination and a cowboy outfit.
Thank you, Slowpoke Steve. Now, what do you, Klondike, isn't that a frozen treat, by the way? But anyway. Was it fun?
I would have liked to try it, but, it looks silly, but I think it'd be fun.
All right, tell us about next week's story.
Okay, next week. In honor of Mother's Day, the story of a mom who put her prejudices aside to adopt a most unlikely litter. If you know of a story that you think deserves national attention, please go to cbsnews.com and click on Assignment America.
All right, Steve Hartman. Steve, thanks. Have a good weekend. And that is the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you back here on Monday. Good night.